Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
My ex-boyfriend 26 male is marrying my best friend 24 female, but he just told me that he wished he was marrying me instead 24 female. I dated my ex-boyfriend from 4th through 11th grade, and I began dating my current boyfriend in 12th grade. My closest friend informed me after I broke up with my ex that she had loved him for a long but hadn't done anything while we were together. She asked whether I was okay with her showing interest in my ex, and I told her she could do anything she wanted. After a while, my ex-boyfriend began dating my best friend. This was not as strange as it sounds, since after 12th grade, we all went our own ways. So I wasn't right next to them the whole time they were dating. We had the opportunity to develop completely and separately, and although others may not understand, I was relieved that my ex and best friend were dating. My ex was a decent person, good enough for my best friend, and I knew they'd get along well. During university, my boyfriend and I relocated far away, and we lost touch with those two for a long. We returned home due of COVID-19, and we discovered they were engaged. It was incredible, and it was one of the happiest days of my life since I was greeted with excellent news and was able to reconnect with old acquaintances. I had the opportunity to speak with my ex-boyfriend, reminiscing and laughing about the past, joking and looking back in time. I told him that I was overjoyed for him, and that if he didn't know what to get my best friend as a present, or was experiencing relationship problems, he could contact me since I knew them both the best. We reconnected our connections after he laughed. Things we had lost over time. I was ready to go to bed last night when he phoned, and I answered the phone. He told me that when he looked back at the moment, he hoped he could turn back the clock so that we would never split up and that we would marry. He said that in another world, we may be married, and that he would give everything to be able to do so. He said that although he admired my partner, we were always meant to be. He waited for my response, which I did not provide, and then hung up the phone. I pretended it didn't happen, but watching my best friend write about her wedding plans and how enthusiastic she is breaks my heart. If I were in her shoes, I'd want to know, but I don't want to ruin her enjoyment. Will she be angry if I don't inform her? Is it better for her not to know? Story 2. My wife cheated on me. I am about to get a divorce. What should I do? Please advise me. After receiving my PhD in EE, I became an international student. I met and married my wife. My first job salary is now not too awful considering I work in a tiny town in Iowa. So, in a nutshell, the salary is $100,000 each year. My family and my wife's family are quite different. My family is well educated. My mother is a professor, and my father works for a stock business. Her mother is a waitress who hardly speaks English, and her dad works in a tiny firm of 4-8 people. Anyway, they are unquestionably wonderful people, but they are unconcerned with education. So, once I met my wife, I began to pay tuition for the dental hygienist school in New Mexico. The annual cost is between $6,000 and $10,000. I've already paid for 4 years. I like children and wanted to have them, but I am unable to do so since I believe she will be unable to complete her studies while caring for children. By the way, I had a lot of pressure as a postdoc, but I couldn't discuss or speak about it with my wife since she doesn't know how to react at all. I started my present work in Iowa 2 years ago. She is still in New Mexico since her studies aren't finished yet, and we have a lot of disagreements. Basically, there are 2 things. 1. My apartment is too little for her. She doesn't want to come here. Instead, she repeatedly said that she wanted to find work in California. 2. Because my salary of $100,000 is too low, she requested a 50% raise every 2-3 years. Yes, I am a loser in her eyes. I did all I could to impress her with my business and my location, such as showing her around my tiny town here and showing her how the firm looked on the inside. She abruptly said about a month ago that she wanted to pursue her master's degree, so she won't come to my place. So I saw something coming towards the conclusion of the year. If she eventually decides not to join me, I may file for divorce. Yesterday, though, there was a bomb. One person messaged me on Facebook Messenger. 1. They've been in a relationship since January 2021. All they do is phone and video chat. They haven't met yet. 2. My wife assured him that they would be together and that she would travel to California to work. Everything makes sense now. 3. He called me because he said something too forcefully to my wife, so he blacklisted him. So he basically bombarded my wife's FB friends with messages. 4. He phoned me and said he gave her approximately $1,000 throughout the course of the 8 months, and she also sent him something, but it wasn't expensive, from my money of course. 5. Let's face it, this man has no idea my wife is married. My wife never told him the truth about her marital status. 6. Of course, this person has no idea who I am. I was speaking calmly. My wife confirmed everything was real when I caught her red-handed. I screenshotted the communication from that person. So we agreed on the phone that we would split gently, which means I owe you nothing and you owe me nothing. Now for my question. What should I do to safeguard myself? Please let me know. How can this divorce be handled peacefully? My wife is immature, but she is not a nasty person. But I don't want any unpleasant shocks afterwards. I simply want to get this over with as soon as possible. Please provide me with specific information on those procedures. Just briefly, how much does this item cost? I have a snapshot of the guy's FB Messenger. Almost everything he said was captured in the screenshot. That $1,000 present tale happened over the phone. I don't have the record, my past is straightforward. Me and her don't have many common assets. We both live in apartments and do not own a home. My automobile title is also unique to me. We do not have any children. We don't have any business-related items. Story 3. My cheating ex-husband is living the high life while I am stuck. My spouse and I split 3.5 years ago. We hadn't had in nearly 5 years, and instead of talking about it with me, he opted to cheat. I'm not going to lie. I played a role in it since I have almost little desire, and was raised by folks who are odd about and were taught that is exclusively for reproduction. I no longer believe such nonsense, but I feel the harm has been done. Basically, while we were dating, we had a couple instances of, and I felt bad and told him that I couldn't have with him again until we were married. We married, and after a few times of having, I simply couldn't feel turned on by him. We essentially had once a week for the first 3 weeks of marriage, then never again. We had the last time in May of 2013. It seemed like my body was rejecting him, and I was as well. He gained a lot of weight, and most of the characteristics that had first drawn me to him were no longer there. His hairline receded, his belly expanded, he lost a lot of muscle in his arms, and so on. He'd blame it on the sedentary nature of his desk work. Whereas I was jogging 3 miles every day to stay in shape. He cheated on me when I was away in December of 2017. He returned and informed me, and I decided to call it quits right then and there. Divorce was strange. It was essentially a no contest since the majority of our negotiating took place without the aid of attorneys. We settled on a plan in which he would give me alimony for 5 years in exchange for 65% of the house equity, 65% of our assets, and the paid-off newer automobile. The explanation was that I had essentially given up my work as a nurse to be a stay-at-home mom. He was employed and had significantly raised his salary. During our marriage, he moved from making $60K a year to making roughly $300K a year. He's a software engineer. He returned to his native state, while I remained in the state where we married, Utah. Well, I didn't know he was practically spying on me. After around 6 months of divorce, I filed a move to discontinue alimony based on cohabitation. I'd foolishly moved in with my now fiancé. Ex-husband hired a private investigator to follow me around for 60 days in order to avoid paying me alimony. On top of his cheating on me, he couldn't even allow me to have a decent level of life. They say terrible things happen to bad people, but I believe that's nonsense. According to Facebook, he's now married to a freaking surgeon, and they have twin kids together. Their most recent post was them closing on their 3rd rental property in the city. They both seem to be actively doing CrossFit together, and he appears to be in better condition than I've ever seen him, and he appears to have had hair implants or something since his receding hairline is gone. Basically, the moral of the tale is that my spouse cheated on me after 5 years of marriage, used alimony as a bargaining chip, and then promptly took it away from me. In the divorce, he stole the dog, so I effectively lost my closest buddy. I got engaged to my now fiancé, although we are both middle-class salaries, both nurses with me part-time. Meanwhile, I'll have to wait and see how well my cheating ex is doing with his new wife. My fiancé and I have been trying to have a kid for years and have been informed that due to a medical problem I have, we may have to undertake IVF. While my ex has twin daughters, my dream, many houses, and is probably a billionaire now that his physique is whole and his hairline is restored.